Hello and welcome to the Holy Rivals Show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm a co-host, Nathan Bomber Brown, and with me is my other co-host. That would be the Wild Ute. How we doing today, Ute?
What's up? Happy Friday, everybody. Week 0. Games have started. Awesome. We're here.
I think it's Saturday, but that's okay.
Whatever day it is.
We won't worry about it either way. With us is our two key contributors, absolutely partners in this whole thing. That'd be Moen Sports, and then we have Immaculate. How we doing today, guys?
Doing good. Happy football Saturday, everyone, even though so far it's been pretty lopsided, shall we say.
Right. Moen, what do you got for us to start off?
Yeah, I mean, it's great watching Notre Dame whip up on a service academy.
Seriously.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me get some business done here, and then we'll dive into that. So I received 3 Oklahoma State things today, and they are awesome. I'm just going to say this right now. William Gertson has sent me 3 things. He sent me this amazing hat, which is brand new, by the way. He sent me a brand new, and this is kick-ass black Oklahoma State helmet, which is not the shiny, it's the matte, and I think I like that better. And then he also sent me a baseball cap, which is right here, that I asked people to send me stuff that's old, and that's what I got. So that was an amazing care package I received yesterday, and I really want to make sure everybody is aware of that. If you want to send stuff for my background, just so everybody knows, it's going to get bigger. I'm going to move my whole desk into the room more, and this whole back side is going to have more shelves and stuff in it. So if you have stuff you want to send me a DM on Twitter, and I'll give you my address, and absolutely I'll represent your school. Today it's Oklahoma State. Tomorrow it could be Baylor. So whoever it is, just send me a DM and we'll go through that. The other thing I want to thank everybody for being here is absolutely subscribe. Give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment or suggestion. We actually read those and put those into shows. And then turn on your notifications. That's probably the most important step of all of that, because you can subscribe, but if you don't turn on your notifications, you don't know when we're on. We're on 5 times a week, and there's a lot of stuff that you can miss if you're not subscribed. If you want to get your comment read for sure, you can make it a super chat, and we read all those, no doubt. The other thing you can do is become a member of the channel. Go to the Big 12 Mafia page on YouTube. Right in the middle of the page, there's a little join button, which is obnoxious and not very bright, it sucks. But if you hit it, it'll give you the options to subscribe. I'm working today with somebody that will print up the rally towels that I'm looking for. I wanted to share what that image is going to be. Give me 1 second. Actually, I'll do that later. So let's just jump right in, guys. There's a lot going on. Everybody's watching Notre Dame and then not watching Notre Dame. So Wild, you tell everybody kind of what you're thinking. This last week has been kind of crazy.
Yeah, this week has been crazy, but the first thing I want to go on a rant. I'm so sick of week 0 games being complete crap. Seriously, what crap games, guys? Like Notre Dame just totally whipping up on Navy. USC's going to drill San Jose State later on. Give us some good football week 0. Come on. What Utah, Florida on week 0, not on Thursday here. Because these games stink. I mean, I'm happy college football's back. Let's get some better stuff, though. Let's get some quality stuff. Let's get like some exhibition games. Let's get a Rose Bowl kickoff game in week 0 and stuff. So that's how I'm feeling this morning and everything. I'm excited it's back, but really, like, let's enhance the quality during kickoff week. Kind of like the NFL, a Thursday night game, a big game with like the Chiefs playing somebody. That's something I think we should do in the future. I know this game for Notre Dame's in Dublin, and that was kind of cool and everything, but we need some bigger time opponents, I think, in the future.
Totally agree with you. And we'll get to Moen and Immaculate in just a second. I want to recognize everybody that was here early. Nathan Campbell was first in the house. Good to see you, Nathan. This comment I wanted to read because I think it's really catchy. It says, Candy for y'all split look up the ACC and put what schools are in the Big 10, SEC, and Big 24. I think that's hilarious. Big 24.
Sounds like a drink from the gas station. Big 24 ounce.
Yeah. Greg Swaim's in the house. Glad to have you here, Greg. Always glad to see you. Immaculate. David Floyd, Cougar Tracks, is one of our members. Good to see Cougar Tracks in the house early on a Saturday evening. Brent Nichols is here. Way to see you, Brent. BR, who I think used to be a member. You're not a member anymore, BR. What did I do? Did I make you mad? Anyway, I'm teasing. Let's see. Wet Blanket is here. There's Wild Ute. And then we got, let's see. I just went past them. Oh, there's Larry, Summit Hawk. Those are both members of the channel. Mr. Monkey says, geez, and I look good in orange is what Greg Swain says. Scott P, no Calford. I think there's a lot of people that think that. That's it. And Tony Lawson, we'll finish it with him.
It's Tough Tony. Hey, it's Tough Tony. What's up? Welcome in, Tough Tony. Hey, I want to ask somebody. I want to open up the phone lines here because we want you guys to call in today. But there's somebody out there that really wants Cal and Stanford, and that's David Floyd in the audience. Never called in before, but I would love for you to call in and let us know why you think that makes sense for the Big 12. You've been a huge advocate, so if you feel comfortable, I'm inviting you and everybody else to call into the show today because I would love to talk about it. We're going to get more into that in a bit, but we're opening those phone lines up.
I'm just replying here to he says, just so you know, everybody knows, BR was a member. His credit card information needs to change, so he's going to come back. We really appreciate all those members being part of this show. Okay, Immaculate, what are you thinking today?
Well, I'm thinking they call it week 0 for a reason. This is when they sell us a bunch of crap games at full ad price because everyone's freaking out for college football. But, I'm actually looking forward to the USC San Jose State game that I get to watch later. We'll see if they get tripped up at all. But as far as all the expansion stuff, I think we're in the same position as usual. So we'll take a look at it again and see what little tidbits are every day that gets added on. Just makes this a little bit more complicated.
Big 12 fan, welcome to the show. He says no Calford. I think a lot of people are saying that.
Yeah.
A lot of Big 12 people don't want to have anything to do with Cal and Stanford. All right, Moen, you've been silent as you always are. What are you thinking today?
I think the best game of the week 0 is coming up at 7 p.m. and it's Ohio at San Diego State. And let that one sink in.
Probably is.
That's going to be the most competitive game on the slate between Hawaii, Vanderbilt, USC, San Jose State, Notre Dame versus Navy.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's some others too. I've kind of forgotten.
To join the show, I just put the hyperlink in the comment section. Click that thing and get in here. We want to talk to you guys today. We don't want to be talking as much. We want to hear what you guys have to say. So if you're in the show, please click on that. We want to talk to you guys more and more. Tony Lawson says, fun fact, the Minnesota Vikings have not won a preseason game in 4 years.
Is that legitimate? Holy
That
smokes.
is crazy. I did not know that.
Did the Cardinals come back?
I guess. I don't know. I wasn't watching it.
Wow.
Summit Hawks, one of our members, he says, at Laura, his wild Ute is KSU. He's from Kansas. You want to answer that there, Ute?
Yeah, here's the deal. Is I'm actually a Utah boy, but like all my family's from Kansas. And I'm still in my house right now, so I had to go stop over to my parents' house to do the show. When I come over here, I can't wear my Utah stuff, guys. This is K-State house right here. This is a big-time K-State house. K-State stuff all over. I got to rep the stuff. Utah's just not allowed. So you got to do what you got to do here. So, but yeah, the wild Ute is for K-State. I was a huge K-State fan growing up and stuff before I went to the University of Utah. So that's
excellent. Cougar Track says, who's also one of our members, says bring in OSU and Wazoo before Calford. How do you guys feel about that?
To the Big 12?
Yeah, yes, that's what
I 100%. I've been pushing for OSU and Wazoo to the Big 12 since the Pac-12 collapsed.
Yep, agreed. Anybody dissent from that?
I just wanted to hear from everyone how strongly they feel that Stanford and Cal have to come to the Big 12 for free. No pay.
I mean,
I don't want them at all. Their attitude, everything they do.
I think most people don't want them. But, I mean, if they were willing to come in for free, you wouldn't have to pay them. They just, show up, come in, and tell you how ugly your drapes are. I mean,
how for free Immaculate is? Are we talking like a year for free?
Yeah, are they doing it for
same deal? They're getting the same thing that they're offering to the ACC, whatever.
They're offering 30% to the ACC.
All right, there you go.
30%. And then it grows every year for 7 years.
All right. I mean, I don't think that they're a good fit for the conference. I personally wouldn't want them if I was a Big 12 big timer. But if that's what it takes to maybe get all four and then get the Pac-12 network, which then you turn into a Big 12 network, which then gets you, I don't know, is it worth the headache for that? I don't know enough about networks to know that. Maybe ask Bob.
Well, and by the way, I did send a message to Bob yesterday, asked him to come back on the show, and he says, I need to take a break. So he says for 2 weeks, he's going to go away. But then he told me in September 12th or 13th that he'd come back on the show, which would be obviously incredible. And we're going to be in a different world at that time. Greg Swaim says, and he's always teasing me, he says, don't let Bomber fool you. He's just wearing OSU gear because of his secret love for the Pokes and me. I do love you, Greg. You're great. And I appreciate you being here. Let's see. Anybody want to join the show? Again, I'm going to post the link. Yep. Click on that thing and come and tell us what you guys are thinking today. Let's go to some comments. Let's go to S. Reed. Welcome to the show, S. Reed. Interested in your view about the rumor that ESPN has approached Yormark to consider bringing in the last Pac-4 schools.
Yeah, I mean, that's what. So what's in it for ESPN? What's in it for ESPN? Why would ESPN do this? Like, what am I missing here, guys?
Fourth window.
That's the only reason.
That's the only reason they want that late night game.
But can't you kind of get there by adding like one school and not really four schools?
You're going to have that one school window. You want to have a variety, a rotation of the teams that play in that. If you have just one or two schools, they're going to be playing that time slot every single week.
Right. Because you got four. You got the Arizona schools, BYU, Utah right now that are in the late night slot. And I know that personally because Utah plays at 8:30 Mountain Time all the time. And I'm expecting more of that. So I guess like adding four more, you're just opening four more options. It just seems pretty expensive to do that if that's the game plan.
I mean,
all right.
On the upper level of it, you'd be removing the opportunity for the PAC to create a whole bunch of new autonomy votes with adding a whole bunch of Mountain West schools. How that might come into effect in CFP voting, how that, there might be some political reasons for wanting to do it, but that's a lot of that's kind of hard to tell at this point.
So let's look at this real quick. So this popped up just before. Well, it's 2 hours old. But this is a headline, and it came from ESPN, Sports Illustrated, covering the Cardinals, which is Stanford. So it's got a little bit of a political twist to it. This is more propaganda than it is a true article. But the point is they are trying to see Stanford Cardinal right there. It's their story. So we want to be very careful about taking this as gospel. But basically, what they're saying in this article is, and I'll post the link if anybody wants to see it, is that they are desperate to stay relevant, literally desperate. And because of that, they're basically saying, we are willing to go anywhere. We just have to stay in the upper echelon, which to me says everybody wants to kill the Pac-12 and just get rid of that A5 conference. Remove it completely, go to A4, and then let the other conferences sort themselves out. That's what I think this says. To me, this is like big boy football. Fox and ESPN getting together and saying, you know what, let's just finish this sucker off, put them in the Big 12, even for a short amount of time, and then they can turn around and leave whenever they want, but at least we're not dealing with a fifth hang-around conference. That's my opinion. What do you guys think about it?
I agree with Cougar Tracks in chat. I tend to think this initially is leverage piece for what's going on in the ACC. But I do think that they're going to have to start looking at other options at some point in time if this doesn't go through, because they do not have much time.
Hey, we got somebody joining us. David Floyd's going to join us. I love it.
I'm so stoked for David Floyd to join us. David Floyd. Hey, David, you know what? I've got to give you credit, my friend. You have been all over, like, hey, Utah, Big 12 stuff for the last year. You have been the most loyal, dedicated guy on the social media. And I truly respect your passion over there and stuff. And I know you've been a fan of Cal and Stanford joining the Big 12 too. So thanks for joining us. What are your thoughts?
So there's a few thoughts. I'm a huge Texas Tech fan, so you know where my background is, and a huge Big 12 fan. We've gone through...
David, I don't have any Texas Tech gear behind me. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's one of these things. when you've gone through this for multiple years, okay. I mean, the first time that Texas Tech, Texas, Oklahoma State, and all of them, we all tried to join a Pac-12. No luck. This has gone on for a while for us. So, all this 2021, trying to join a conference, told, hey, we're not good enough. I mean, as you know, just like Utah, Texas Tech is very close to getting AAU status. That's at least what we're told. Do I believe it? I don't know. Oklahoma State's the same way. Houston's the same way. I know Cincinnati's the same way. So pulling in schools like that is huge for the optics of the conference. And I know we kind of poo-poo on Antonio Altamore a lot because he brings up the academics a lot, but it's a big deal to the schools who are trying so desperately to get into that status and get AAU status. So that's one of the things. The other one is just bringing in Cal and Stanford. It's not a bad thing. I mean, the optics of pulling in the most prestigious school, public and private, on the West Coast into the Big 12 is not going to hurt us. If anything, it's just great for the conference. I also look at it for recruiting. I mean, you got to get into 40 million people in the state of California.
Right.
That's huge. I mean, a year ago, I'd be like, no, don't need them. Now I'm kind of like, time out. This actually makes a lot more sense. And that's why I think we should consider them. Do I think they're better than San Diego State? I don't know. Do I think they're better than Washington State? Of course, yes. Oregon State? No, definitely a better run athletic department, but I don't know what the market is there. And I know that's going to kind of piss off people like West Virginia and UCF because they want us to go east and like, hey, wait, ACC to implode. But if you can get Cal, Stanford on the cheap, let's do it. Because if you have to get the 20 or 22 or 24 eventually, those aren't two more schools that you don't want to add. My point is add them now because they're a lot better than adding, I don't know, Wake Forest or Boston College or Syracuse or schools like that. To me, that's a no-go. I've lived in North Carolina. I live in Washington, D.C. I don't think so, guys. Like, you definitely don't want Wake Forest.
If they come in at a reduced rate, like they've offered the ACC, I think it's a slam dunk. The thing is, we're all going to have to get over ourselves because they're a bunch of jackasses, right? Nobody wants them around, but at the end of the day, their institutions are, bar none, right? Nobody can say that that's not true. So at the end of the day, they're just so desperate to get in. And as I've contended, and I'm going to ask Immaculate this next question, is if the ACC really can't get that last vote, it's because they don't want to bring anybody in that'll upset the balance of everything, right? They don't want to give any leverage. They're not going to give an out clause for Florida State and Clemson. So this is really the only option. It's the parachute that you could get those Pac-12 schools for. So Immaculate, you've studied this. I know you have a different opinion than I do. We're now on Saturday. Last we talked about this was on Thursday. Has your opinion changed about the way that the ACC is behaving? Because I think this article, while it's obviously slighted, I think it shows they are in desperation mode.
I think it is a clue. I think this is a clue that Stanford and Cal are starting to worry. They probably thought this was going to be a slam dunk too, going to the ACC. I mean, look what they're offering. I mean, this is unprecedented. But as long as there is not a no vote, it means that they have done the straw polling internally, and they know that they don't have the yes vote, and yet they don't want to have a vote because the moment they have the no vote, then it's done. It's off the table. Goodbye. If you get that no vote, then I say you look hard at Stanford and Cal, Oregon State and Washington State. If you take them beforehand, which honestly I don't think Stanford and Cal are ready for until they get the no vote with the ACC, but then you kind of getting some better stuff out of the ACC. Just my opinion on that. I would watch for that firm no vote from the ACC to determine this part.
Real quick, I want to call out this super chat from Mark Bowman. Thank you, Mark, for the $2. It's much appreciated. I want to tell everybody I'm trying to build up a war chest to make one trip this year from the money that I'm raising for the show. I'm trying to do some work. I believe it or not, I'm thinking about writing articles and possibly doing some publishing stuff with Jim Williams. I know there's others here on this call that are thinking about doing that. And so this money is much appreciated. And both Ute and I really appreciate all this coming in. let's see. Summit Hawk is in. Summit, you obviously wanted to be in on this. Did you have an opinion about what we're talking about? Holy hell.
Well, yeah.
I don't even know what to say about that. Sorry, everybody. Obviously, that was very sad. I don't know what to do with that.
So
I apologize.
To this Cal, Stanford, SMU to the ACC.
Right.
So one of the things that I know you guys might not be thinking about, but I know the Texas schools are thinking about this quite a bit. There's now 6 Power 4 schools in the state of Texas. We don't need a 7th. This is not good for anybody. Adding SMU to the ACC is really a bad play for us, and it really hurts schools like Baylor, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, schools that historically recruited the state of Texas. So this is not a good thing for us. To me, it's a shot across the bow of the Big 12 by adding them. But that's just something a different perspective to look at.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so David, do you think that really adding Cal and Stanford is good for the AAU portion, right? And like the academics portion of the Big 12, is that really kind of where your thoughts are on why they are a big value add?
No, so the academics is a major part, especially for schools who have aspirations of becoming AAU. And I know there's at least 4 in the conference who've been struggling to get there. That's one. Second is recruiting. The lifeblood of college football is recruiting. State of Texas right now with 6 Power 4 schools in it, it's just dwindling. And now we're going to have even more schools recruiting the state of Texas. I mean, look at UCF right now. They have the best recruiting class in the new Big 12.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge advantage. I mean, part of me says add USF. I'm sorry, USF.
Yep.
I mean, there's a reason Florida State's freaking out. Let's not forget about this. It's not just that UCF might be making more money than them, which we know that is the case. Second is their recruiting has dropped since UCF has joined that conference or has joined the Power 4. That's a big deal. I don't think people realize how much of a big deal that is. Going and playing in California, that's a big deal. And it's not like you're adding San Jose or something like that. You're getting 2 big brands. Honestly, I have faith in Brett Yormark. If he says, hey, we got these schools, I'm pretty sure we'd be doing stuff in California. We'll just say that. I have faith that he might be able to finagle some media properties, big game events. I don't know. With him as commissioner, I think that, the ceiling's, really there's no limit to what the Big 12 can accomplish.
So really, so are you thinking too Wazoo and Oregon State additions with Cal and Stanford to get to a 20 Big 12? Is that just too much? What's your thoughts?
That's too much. Unless you get the Pac-12 network to convert over the Big 12 network, I would say hold off on them until you find out what happens with the ACC.
Yeah.
It's just Washington State. I mean, to be honest with you, you look at any metric, they're going to show, oh, look, we look our great media. Yeah, because you're playing at like 12 o'clock at night, and it's like 2:30 Eastern in the morning.
Right.
They have great metrics. They're honestly, I don't know how bad they are financially, but I mean, I've heard they spend like $40 or $50 million towards a year go towards athletic from their academic side. That's not a sustainable model.
Mm-hmm.
I think UConn does the same thing. That's not a sustainable model. You cannot, at least in my mind, you can't be supporting or the athletic by spending $40 to $50 million a year there to keep it afloat. That's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
You want schools that, I hate to say, that break even or maybe just try a little bit. 40 plus. I think that's the recipe for disaster. Look, it's not fair to them. It's not good for them. It's not right. Taking advantage of it.
Yeah, got it. What do you think, Moan, about that? What do you think about adding all 4 of those?
Yeah, I don't know that you add all 4. I mean, if you're adding Cal and Stanford, it's just temporary. Stanford and Cal would be in the Big Ten if Stanford were reliant on joining the academic alliance. So, I mean, if I'm the Big 12, I don't take Cal and Stanford. I just say no. Sit out there in California, be independent, be bankrupt. Especially for everything they said about the Big 12. during the whole situation leading up to the demise of the Pac-12. Stanford and Cal were the two sitting on their ivory tower thumbing their nose. That ivory tower's turned into a pile of shit, and let them sit on it.
Connor's got a comment. He's an OSU Beaver fan. Hey, Connor, send me some Beaver gear, and I'll wear yours as well. Amazon or Apple buy a stake in ESPN. I think everybody saw the report today, or maybe you didn't. That Amazon and ESPN are actually talking about cutting out and putting in some direct-to-consumer product. Everybody'd have to subscribe to it. It'd be $30-$50 a month, and they would provide games, and that would be another revenue source. All bets are off. Anyways, he says included in live sports production arm, Amazon Apple negotiates dollar amount games or number of games from ESPN. Who's this already established production arm? Would they use the Pac-12 network?
Not sure. Not really my area of expertise, but I know that the Oregon State folks have been going pretty heavy into looking into all their options and ways to work through things. So I'm sure Connor has probably talked about this a lot more than any of us have at this point.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I think, like Moen is saying, that if you take in Stanford and California now, there's no saying how long it's the last four. But if you take them both in now and maybe one of them goes to the Big Ten, then you both you have yourselves 5-team Western divisions ready to go. Just saying, 25 teams, 5-team divisions, you're good to go.
I was thinking about this. If you did add 4, and so if you can make the finances right, and you get to 20-team Big 12, then when the ACC does fall apart eventually, you can easily grab 4 teams, get to a 24 block, or Matthew, your 25 block. It kind of makes sense with the balance there. But I would have some questions about valuations and considering San Diego State versus some of these other schools, the Pac schools. I think San Diego State makes a compelling argument. Maybe take one Northern California team, Wazoo and Oregon State, believe it or not. I don't know. There's some mix and match maybe you want to consider there. But I think that, if the goal is to one day to get to a 24 block, which I think eventually is going to happen, it might be in the cards if the dollars are right and you can make the finances work at lower distributions now.
Let's see.
I actually like San Diego State to group up with the 4 that you have now. Because I've never really thought that Stanford, California would be available. And unfortunately, Oregon State and Washington State are just so far away that people think, oh, it's just all out west. But out west is large. It's big. It's wide. Got a lot of mountains in the way. San Diego State, just speaking here in the Phoenix area, people here love San Diego. There's a lot of connection between Arizona here and that far south in California. So to me, I like San Diego State as a 15, have for a while, but I don't know when that becomes viable as an actual pick.
Yeah, gotcha.
The only way we go to, and this is a question from Cougar Track, he says, what would the Big 12 want to go to 24 teams? They're not going to be the first league to go to 24. I can tell you that right now.
You don't think so?
I don't.
I don't know. If your Mark's sitting there, your Mark's such a baller that you probably figured it out.
I think 20 is his max right now. ACC blows up, that changes the calculus because then all those schools go to every other conference and everybody's at 24. But I don't think they go to 24 first. They're not going to pick up UConn and San Diego State knowing that the ACC is teetering like it is.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, obviously. I mean, you guys, obviously, you can say your piece too.
I don't think 24 is good for the Big 12. I'll be real honest. I have stayed very quiet on it because if the Big 10 and the SEC are going to 24, look at where they're looking to get it from, at least some of it from. So if I'm speaking from a purely Big 12 perspective, I want it at 20 and that's it. You don't want to see the Big and SEC go past that. And then later on, maybe you go past that when you start to do basketball stuff. But from a Big 12 perspective, I would want 20 and we're good.
Right. I don't see the SEC going above 20.
Ever.
20 is the SEC's number.
That's what.
Ever.
Right.
That's where they cap out at.
I do think the Big 10 goes 24.
Big 10 definitely does.
They have schools that they want to bring in all across the country. When it's all right now, it's on the ACC. The Pac-12 was just the tipping point Have you guys read that book, Tipping Point? Have all of you guys read that?
Isn't that a Gladwell book? Malcolm
Gladwell book?
Yeah.
If you haven't read it and you're new to the channel, in fact, let's do a reset real quick. First of all, I want to apologize to everybody what happened 10 minutes ago. I'm still a bit startled about that. We will delete it, and that will not be in the show again. Unfortunately, I have no idea how that could have happened, but whatever it goes with technology. So
Palmer said, someone said in the chat this happened on the Mark Rogers show too, so it might be
it
something
did?
to watch out for in futures.
Somebody on YouTube might be hacking stuff. Anyways, I just want to tell everybody it matters to me, and I don't want you guys to think that Ute and I take this lightly. We don't. It's a big deal, and we're both pretty shook up about it. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We've got almost 80 people here on a Saturday afternoon, which is crazy. Really appreciate everybody being here. We're talking football. We're talking realignment. Please subscribe. Turn on your notifications. Leave us a comment or suggestion. If you want your comment to be read, for sure, you can make it a super chat. Otherwise, you can join the channel. Go to the Big 12 Mafia, the Holy Rivals show page. In the middle, hit the join button, and there's options to subscribe. All right, let's.
So, David, any other thoughts or anything else that you want to get out there?
Yes, I know this might seem crazy. I think if you add Stanford and Cal, I think the ACSC implodes. I know that seems nuts. I think people start to react. Hey, there's only so many spots. There's only so many spots, and I mean, we saw it with just recently on the 4th, right? I mean, people got nervous, and people make decisions when they're nervous that are not always in their best interest. So I think if you grab them, I think it will take more than a week. I think it takes less than a week. You might see a couple schools. There's some rich schools in ACC that might look around and go, you know what? It's time to go. Because, I mean, who are they going to add? There's nobody they could add.
There isn't. No, it's done. The adding part's done.
Yeah.
The Big 12 is not going to lose anybody. Big 10 is not going to lose anybody. SEC is not going to lose anybody. If the Pac-12 disintegrates this weekend or the first part of next week, it's over. I agree with you.
I think the writing's on the wall. And I think that you'll see schools like UNC and UVA look at each other going, this ain't going to work. Because there's no who they can add. Liberty, I mean, USF, SMU, that's Tulane, Rice. That's not sustainable.
No.
And they're going to see the writing on the wall. It's 3 conferences, and they're going to bolt. And it's probably, honestly, UVA and UNC are going to be looking north just because, the academic institutions they are. I think that's going to leave us or leave the Big 12 a great opportunity to pick schools like Louisville. That's probably, Louisville, Pitt, Virginia Tech, NC State.
Yes.
I know NC State fans and Virginia Tech fans.
And put Pitt fans. They're all they are on Twitter just freaking out. But you know what? What I think this is funny. I think you guys will laugh about this. I went back through my timeline on Twitter, and everything that happened in the Pac-12 from the beginning to the end is immediately right now happening in real time to the ACC. And it seems to me like they weren't paying attention. Nobody on the East Coast was watching the Pac-12 immolate itself. Every step of the way, they are absolutely duplicating every piece of it. And I don't see a better outcome at all.
They overvalue themselves. The other day I was at the driving range. I saw a guy with a pit hat. I said, hey, so what's going on with your conference? Just to see, he's like, oh, no, we'll be fine. He goes, our administration is telling us to go to the SEC. And I was like, oh, my God.
That's crazy talk.
I was like, okay, buddy, good at that. And I had to ask, I said, what makes you think Pitt's any better than, say, like Oklahoma State or Utah or BYU or Kansas? And it's like, oh, yeah, we are. And I'm like, are you?
Right. It's true.
So some teams just have to eat a little humble pie. As a Ute fan, it was a bit of a humble pie,
There we go.
Process, right? And I think Pitt fans might be there pretty soon, too. David, we need people like you to keep us honest.
I think over the last years of watching this, I'll tell you right now, where I thought Texas Tech was at the beginning of this, I'm like, okay, maybe we're not the top 25 program, which we used to be top 25, I thought. Now we're like, I hope we're in the top 40, But, when you hear people like NC State fans in their media, like, oh, yeah, we're top 20. I'm like, NC State?
No.
Sorry. Like, I look at I'm like, you're not better than Kansas.
Yeah.
You're not better than Colorado.
I think I think what's going to happen is that they're going to get slapped in the face when Clemson and Florida State do whatever they're going to do. I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to be the tipping point for the ACC. Then they're going to be put in the same position that Utah was. Pitt and Utah are identical in this process. They are the exact same. They have the same attitude about their school. They have the same attitude about the way they deal with outside pressure, and they have all deflected. Utah did it forever, right? An entire year. They fought what was really, I thought, fait accompli last July. Not this July, last July. So Pitt's just late to the party, I think. Mark Bowman, another $2. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate it. Let's see here. Let's get some more comments in.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's get some more folks to call in. Really, if there's nothing else, David, thanks for calling in. Call in some other time. And again, guys, yeah, with the stuff that happened, Summit. Sorry that happened. We're gonna delete that segment stuff. If you feel comfortable calling in, you don't have to show yourself on camera, and we can still chat with you. We'd love for you to call in. That's not going to dissuade us from accepting call-ins, though, guys. I mean, that's part of the show. So
I saw a comment there from Greg Swain. He thinks that was Tony Tynamore. Or Tiny Altimore. One is the two. It's quite possible it was Roll 18 Tide, maybe. I don't know. Those guys absolutely hate me. Anyway. All right, we're gonna let you go, David. Thank you so much. Really appreciate
talking,
it.
man. Have a great one.
All right, bye-bye.
I think it's an interesting thought that David had, actually, that if bringing Cal and Stanford in the Big 12 does bolster the academic profile. I know we hate that, guys. We hate the academic discussion, but really, if you bring those two in, then maybe more ACC schools like maybe a Virginia Tech, that's AAU and stuff, would be more considerate, jumping over to the Big 12 and stuff. It'd be more appetizing. So that's the first time I've heard that thought. And there's something there because, I mean, Stanford and Cal do have sway with other schools, right? And if academics are a big focus for your university or your AAU, you want to be associated with that. So there might be something there.
Well, if Virginia Tech is your target, their president is either a graduate of California or Stanford. I forget which one, but he's one of them. So would he be open to following his alma mater? Probably.
Let's jump to this Twitter post, which I had found, and then like 5 minutes later, you sent me the link to get to it too. So we were both on it at the exact same time. I'm going to read the Kuga Sutra one. He says, "My math, it costs $72 million for ESPN yearly to add Bay Area schools to the ACC. Based on pro rata, it would cost them about 92 to add all 4 Pac-12 schools. To the Big 12. If it costs ESPN 20 million to add Wazoo and OSU to the ACC, then it's a wash. What brings greater value to the network?" And then Bob replied, he says, and I love Bob so much. He is awesome. He says the ACC flat out 72 million. The Big 12 would be 2/3 of that, which is 31.7 million for the schools coming in. And then, or 84.5 million if you assume the 10 million times 2 of OSU and Wazoo go to the ACC, then ESPN actually spends less money if all 4 go to the Big 12. What do you guys think about that? I mean, he is so smart and concise in his comments. Do you guys follow that logic?
Well, it would carry water because of the report of ESPN talking to the Big 12.
Right.
Now, you never know with these things if it's true or not, but then when you see Bob break down the numbers and you say, well, I mean, there's some sense to this. And, maybe part of the problem at the ACC is that they're trying to work with the networks to make this work, and it's not looking so great. I don't know. I mean, you can't really argue with his numbers, though. They're spot on. They're right there.
I think the biggest question is, do they have enough energy, basically, to finally end the Pac-12? Does everybody just want to be done with it? They rub their hands together, throw them up, and say, "Yeah, let's go."
Eventually they're going to have to get to that point. I've never bought the idea of merging other schools into the Pac. It's just, even Bob has said, it's possible if you get the right talented individuals in a room and work out the agreement on it. I'm like, okay, that's a big maybe, even, for Bob to say that, but I just don't think it's a viable route. So, It might be the best route. It might not be.
So what would the payout for Oregon State and Wazoo be? And Bob's tweet had those figures, right? Was he saying 12?
I'll bring it back up. There you go. You
so he's saying, in other words, just an additional $12.5 million to secure both OSU and.
He's got the 31.7 by 4, which is all 4 Pac schools.
Right, but they're P5s. That's their pro rata.
What he's comparing is the ACC cost plus the AAC cost for 2 versus the Big 12 cost for 4. So he's saying it's not really all that much more to get OSU and WSU in a P5 versus losing them down into an AAC. I think he's saying it costs like $12.5 million extra for ESPN to secure them in a P5 versus letting them go down to AAC. He's saying it's a good buy.
Mm-hmm.
It actually doesn't even mention Fox either.
This is just ESPN.
Fox, this is just ESPN. So Fox might not be funding this at all.
He said that ESPN is already, I think, 2/3 of the cost.
They are. They're 2/3,
so
and it's 1/3 for Fox.
They're really taking on the third that Fox would have done, and get that much more content, I guess.
Yeah,
they get all of the West Coast content from that.
So. Let's move down the line. So we have Larry
for Fox.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Moan.
Nope.
I was going to say there's nothing in that for Fox. Why would Fox pay to add WSU? It's nothing in it for them. They would pay for the 4 corners, but they're not going to pay for additional Big 12 expansion.
If Fox does late night, they'll do Big 10.
Brent Nichols, $1.99. Thanks, Brent. I appreciate it. Thanks
Brent.
for your insights and appreciate your work. Thank you very much. We very much appreciate that. All right. We've got Larry Pilgrim has joined the house. How we doing, Larry?
Good. How are you gentlemen doing today?
A little shook, but I think we've recovered a little bit.
Hey, man, that's live. Crazy stuff happens.
Yeah.
You got any surprises for us, Larry?
No, the only thing I've been diving into is getting some roster intel behind the scenes. That's it. I'm done. I'm done with the expansion stuff. My team's where they're at. Done with that roller coaster ride.
Larry, tell us what's going on with the University of Utah Utes and what we can expect for Thursday in the Florida game.
Well, I told you, Fano.
Really quick, Larry, let me tell Philip something. You need to back up a little bit, Ute. Yeah, it's just you're right next to the mic, and it's a little bit loud. Just so
Thanks for the feedback. Cool.
Yeah, sure. I'm loud all the time. All right, Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, so like I told Philip last week behind the scenes that Fano would be starting at left tackle. And as far as Rising goes, I got to keep that on the down low. So.
You don't want to spill any news here today? I'm sure everybody over at Florida is watching my show tonight.
I'm sure they are. No, actually, I had to repair my pool pump housing. So anyway.
All right.
It's not all fun and games.
That's okay. You want to stick around for a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Let's do some questions out of the gallery.
Hey, Larry, you've got to give us some intel on the roster here.
You didn't like his answer, Wait,
Larry, you don't have to give us any Rising updates, but what else is going on?
Yeah. So, Samote Pepa's on the 2 deep, but I think that's because my guy couldn't really confirm it. He's actually really best friends with the Fotus. And so I think Pepa's one of the ones that got a little nicked up in spring camp. So there, I'll give you that. Okay.
Is Fano starting at left tackle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's been evaluated as good as Panay Sewell at this phase, and that's why he's starting. They're saying he's as good at this point as Panay Sewell was, if not possibly a little bit better than Panay Sewell. And so Panay Sewell started as a true freshman and never gave up a sack his entire career at Oregon.
Yeah, there's a stud at left tackle. The Utes
That
just,
was a huge loss for BYU and Utah, him going to Oregon.
oh gosh,
That was massive, absolutely massive loss for the state of Utah.
Could I ask
Yeah.
Larry a quick question?
Please.
Now I know you're done with the expansion stuff, and that's all good. But now that you are a member of the Big 12 and seeing the situation that's going on, do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share on perhaps the ACC situation, or
As far as the ACC, I mean, like I've always said, the tall tale, and it was the tell for Colorado, was the Pac-12. They had a deal, and I can come out with this now because I think it's been exposed. The Pac-12 was offered $35 million per team by Apple, $25 million for additional 4 teams that were going to be South Florida, Memphis, SMU, and I can't remember the 4th one. And they voted no. And that's when Colorado knew the writing on the wall. So what the ACC is doing, whoever's voting no, is planning on exiting.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the only thing, the only intelligent thing I could say about that. So whoever's voting no has a plan.
do you think there's only 4 no's, or do you think there's some shadow no's lurking in those yeses and maybes?
Well, what would you have? Six maximum that would have a seat in the other 2, in the Big 2?
If they're going to 20, that'd be 2 to the Big, 4 to the SEC. Does the Big willing to go further than that? That probably depends upon if Notre Dame's part of it, because that gives them a lot more money to work with.
Yeah, so my best guess would be there's 6, and there's 2 silent no's. I think there's 6 no's. So,
6 doesn't give you a threat for dissolution, though. But anyways, we'll go pretty deep into that. I was just kind of curious how you looked at that in terms of who you'd want.
Right, and then the ACC, yeah. I mean, but then it comes down to just like what the Pac was. Like, I always knew Utah was not going to stay in the Pac without Oregon and Washington. I always knew that because who are you going to play? I mean, who's going to be a team that you can say, hey, we beat this team? Because we all know when it comes down to bragging rights and where you're placed in polls and everything, publicity, it comes down to who you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just nobody there for Utah to brag about beating.
I remember you talking about that the moment USC was gone, that the thrill had kind of gone for you.
But that's what you said too. You said
you guys have both said that once USC was gone, that the thrill was kind of gone for Utah. Like,
the Pac-12 died. Yeah, when USC left, in my mind, I mean, we said that episode 1 of Holy Rivals. That was my stance all along. The Pac-12 was just dead. USC, without USC, there just was nothing. No matter what, it was never going to be what it was. And guys, and let's be honest about this, the Pac-12 is still the 5th best conference, 4th, 5th best conference every year. So there's just major issues with that. It was totally, in my mind, it was totally done at that time. And so so this is, so the Big 12 move is an easy move and stuff for the Utes coming over there and everything. So it's too bad. And the USC's move really, broke the Pac's back, losing LA.
Let's read this comment from Go Black 45. He says, if I were the Big 10, I would tell Calford you can come aboard for $10 million per year, but you will play all but 2 games on Peacock or CBS Sports app. Moen and Immaculate, you guys are both Big 10 people. What's your breakdown of that?
Yeah, that's not going to – Stanford was already told they could join the Big 10. They had to give up and become a member of the Big 10 Academic Alliance.
Yep.
Didn't want to. And the Big Ten's not taking Cal without Stanford. So
right.
Stanford's going to have to make that decision. If, now they're coming to the Big 12. And I don't think the Big 10 has to bend on it. They can just wait them out. Stanford can either end up playing in a reconstituted Pac-4, a Mountain West, or independent, and Big 10 will just march on.
So can we clarify something really quick, Larry? You
Yeah.
made a statement that Apple offered $35 million all in. Doesn't that include all the estimations that they had for all the subs they were going to get. It was 25 million was the last offer. Bob Thompson even confirmed that. So where's the other 10 million you're talking about? Isn't that incentive based?
No, so they had to expand to 14. They voted no to. So the original offer from Apple was 35 per team, but they had to add the 4 teams that were on the East Coast.
Okay.
SMU, and they said no. Oregon and Washington voted no.
Well, yeah, they would have been voting against their own interest. They're not going to do that. So.
Right, and they were actually going to pay. Oh, it was San Diego State. I think it was San Diego State was the fourth one. They were going to pay $25 million for the additional teams.
Okay, that's not what I heard. So I'm just trying to get a clarification. So.
Yeah,
it does make some sense though if you're trying to get those Eastern markets in order to get subscriptions out there as well.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it was.
I don't have a question about the schools they were going to bring in. It's the amount of money that they were promised to get that was guaranteed that wasn't tied to all the bonuses and everything.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was 25 million.
Right, but what was it? What was it before Colorado left? Because you've heard that there was
it was 30. It was 30 million last fall, and they turned it down.
Right. It was 30. That was without the additions. They were going to get 35. 25 million was going to. Now whether they paid 20 million for the other teams and pocketed the other, I'm not sure. But I've heard it was 35 million. They were going to pay 25 million for those 4 additional teams.
Yeah, I think that's. I see. I think I know how you get there. Then they were going to pay 20. They were going to pay the league 25 million, but they were only going to pay the schools like 10 or 15. Take the difference and skim it off and give it to the other 10. That's how you get $10 more million. You're stealing it from your new additions, which is fine. That's what conferences do. But that's how you get to 35 million. So everybody who's listening, let's be very clear. It was 25 million to every school. But then they took away from the schools that were going to be added to bump up all the remaining Pac-12 schools, which ended up being nothing. So
right, it's been so fluid, and so the reason I brought that up was because of Brian asking what I thought, and just like with the Pac, like you're saying, if you look at the history of what happened with the Pac, the biggest thing and why I was told Colorado left, and they knew Oregon and Washington were not signing is because they voted no on expansion. So Colorado knew what was coming. And so that's what I've been told.
Okay,
so that's what I believe. ACC. Yeah.
Doc Gibbs just got in the house. Good to see you, Doc. He says, are you now certain Stanford Cal not going to the ACC? We're not certain about anything. All we're doing is reading tea leaves. And,
hey guys, can we go back in history a little bit to the point where the Pac-12 decided not to accept the ESPN contract offer, and the Big 12 soon after did, right? Like they jumped in line.
Right.
I've thought about this quite a bit, and like I think it was Craig in the chat brought this up too. I don't think that I don't really know what dollar figure really could have got the Pac-12 deal done. Like I know that the Pac-12 asked for 50 million. The counter was 30 million, but I'm not sure Oregon and Washington were going to sign anything at any point in time. I'm serious about that. Like I don't know how much money, unless it was at the Big Ten level, that they would have signed on along grant of rights, given their desired entry into the Big Ten. So I just I've thought about that for the last year and stuff. I think that it was doomed to fail because the Big Ten was always hovering over this process. We talked about that so much Bomber months ago, but that was the kiss of death at the end too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I have to imagine that even if that deal came in and say that the Pac was offered like 42 to 45 million from ESPN, I don't think they would have signed it, guys. I just don't think that there was ever a deal there because of the Big Ten. And like in Moan, I'm not going after the Big Ten. I'm not saying you're the bad guy. I just think that's the reality of the situation. They're trying to up themselves to get into the Big Ten. And so it was kind of doomed to start.
Right. But the Oregon and Washington were told no last year, and it wasn't no with a possibility of yes. So Oregon and Washington probably would have signed a short-term gore because I don't think the Big Ten wanted to expand this quickly. I think we wanted to take a few years, let USC and UCLA get acclimated. Obviously, things didn't play out that way with Colorado deciding to jump. And then Arizona being invited. Once they saw Arizona was invited to the Big 12 and requested an application, that's when all hell broke loose.
Right.
Now, Mullen,
I don't think they wanted to jump that quick.
which AD came out and said that the networks are deciding, not the presidents? One of the ADs from one of the Big Ten universities came out and said they didn't want to add, but Fox is running it. The networks, I should say. Which AD was that?
Gary Barta from Iowa had stated that originally. That he didn't want to do any expansion that was dilutive towards the original schools that had signed the media deal. And he was the former AD for Iowa. He just recently retired, in quotation marks. He's the one. But yes, Fox Sports does have a say in it, but you can't force presidents to vote one way or another. There has to be a benefit for the presidents. In this case, with the Oregon-Washington thing, Washington was a benefit. That's Washington overwhelmingly had support. Oregon took people needed to be convinced to get Oregon in. So Fox carried the water for Washington, and that's what helped get Oregon into the conference.
Yeah, I think what people don't understand real quick about the Big Ten is it's not like this unipolar type of thing. It's factions, it's groups, and they don't want to bring in people too quickly because then those people who come in together, they naturally tend to go together to form new factions, new voting groups. So I agree with Moen. They did not want to do this quickly. They probably wanted USC, UCLA, give it 5 years for them to get acclimated, figure out where they are in the fabric before you bring in anyone else. But now they're going to end up having a West Coast voting faction within the conference.
So let me bring this up. BR is again one of our members. Good to have you here, BR. Appreciate it. He says testing. Great show, guys. Thank you very much for the super chat. Drake, I sent you an invite in your Twitter feed if you want to join the show. Let's talk about this in greater detail because this statement is absolutely true. Don't try to blame this on the networks. The PAC presidents and administration did this to themselves. They were offered a deal that would have kept them together long ago. So, and Bob Thompson again on our show said, if you are blaming the networks, you're pointing in the wrong direction. And he did it for 35 years. So I still don't understand how we circle back to this thing about blaming the omniscient Fox, ESPN, NBC, CBS, whoever that is making all these decisions. I just if Bob Thompson doesn't believe it, I don't believe it.
I mean, we asked Bob that question, right? But guys, like whoever has the gold makes the rules. That's how it works. Who has the gold?
I'm sure Texas and Oklahoma had nothing to do with the move with ESPN. I'm sure ESPN had nothing to do with it. Come on, people. Use common sense. If Fox didn't pay the Four Corner schools to leave, are they leaving? Are they leaving for $20 million? For ESPN's $21 million? Like, you got to use common sense. They're not leaving for $21 million.
Well, wait a second. Just access into the conference, they would. Larry, don't you think Utah would have taken $21 million to join the Big Ten?
Do I?
Yeah.
That's a different story. You're
I think
talking about would they
associated.
take 21 to join the Big Ten or 21 to join the Big 12? Big difference. You can't compare. You can't compare the
Larry.
Caribbean to the middle of the desert.
Larry, I listen to me. I said the Big Ten.
Right. They wouldn't take $21 million to go to the Big Ten because that would have never been an option.
And that's where you and I differ. I think they would. I think Utah would go right now for free.
Yeah, I think Utah would go for free to the Big Ten for a period of time.
Right. My point was Fox paying the Four Corners schools to go to the Big 12, $10 million, played into the networks, moving the teams they wanted to move.
Well, that's because,
if Fox was not going to offer pro rata to the Four Corners, they wouldn't have left for the Big 12. Therefore, the Pac would have probably taken the deal. And Fox, would they have still gone after Washington and Oregon? Maybe. We'll never know that part.
I just think that if Fox is looking and ESPN are looking at the Pac and they're looking at the ratings that they get out of there, they look at how much they can sell ads for pure Pac content. And then they're looking at the value that they might be able to get out of those brands in an Eastern Conference. I think they're just saying these are the numbers that we're coming up with. You know, if this interests you, you guys let us know. But the decision does come down to the presidents. You know, the networks are just crunching numbers. And this is what the numbers show. And it's not fair. It's not nice. I don't think that there's any like animus or like we want to rip this apart. They're just saying, you know, these are the ratings, these are the numbers we get, and this is what we can charge for it. And you know, to some degree, it's a guessing game, but they have numbers because Oregon went out and did the groundwork, which was to schedule games out east, to schedule games in places to showcase, hey, this is the kind of ratings we get if you put us in an Eastern division. So if you really want to look at a school, I say look at Oregon because they've been doing this for years, trying to build up the metrics to show, look how much more you can pay us if we're in a different conference. That's my opinion. I mean, people say it's for recruiting and whatnot, but it's to give them metrics to show we're worth more elsewhere. So that's my opinion.
It's an interesting conversation. Who controls realignment? Like, who really drives realignment? Bob Thompson was pretty specific that media companies don't, right? That was Bob's stance. Mm-hmm. He provided justification for it. I understood that. We don't have to agree with it, though, still. I mean, like, Bob, it comes from a media company and stuff. Like, maybe we have a more nuanced approach. But, I mean, the money that the media companies provide is a big factor in realignment, guys. Duh.
Yeah, but so we can't
everything, but it's huge.
Well, it's part of it, obviously.
And the president's decision to go somewhere for a university is part of it too. But the president of the University of Utah would love to get in the Big Ten. They wanted to get in the Big Ten, but they didn't have an invite because they didn't have the media money, right? If they had enough media money, they would have gotten an invite. So it's nuanced. It is nuanced. It's like almost like a 50-50 thing.
It is. It's a relationship.
It's a relationship, right? So media companies are a huge piece of this, though, and you can't discount that.
Yeah,
I agree with Brian.
Yeah, but
it's both. It's everyone. I mean,
what we're talking about what the specific. Let's talk about what we're talking about, though. We're talking about blaming somebody. Everybody's trying to blame somebody.
Yeah,
they're angry. People don't like where they're at. I don't see any value in it either. If you hear from an expert that things go a certain way, until you have somebody else tell you it's different, I think you have to default to that. Bob will be.
Yeah, I don't think there's blame. I don't think there's blame, Nathan. Okay. I agree. I don't think you can blame anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to get out of the blame game. The whole thing was a mess. Business. Let's just not talk about it anymore.
Business.
Cougar Tracks.
I've got some upset feelings with Fox Sports, though. We're playing the blame game, but Fox Sports, I'll tell you, like the University of Utah, feels like they've really screwed the years. I'm just telling you guys, like over the years and stuff. Last year, there's a game at Wazoo where Utah played, and the Fox Sports didn't even bring anyone locally to the game.
Yeah, I saw that. I watched that game.
There was a lot of conflict between Fox Sports and Kyle Whittingham and stuff. So all this stuff was going on. Fox Sports pulls USC and UCLA and funds that operation over to the Big Ten. It just seems like there's just bad blood between Fox Sports and the old Pac schools. So.
Okay.
Right. But I want to get back on. There is one person to blame or one institution to blame. And that's Notre Dame.
All right.
Notre Dame.
Go, Moen. Go for it. You got 90 seconds. Here we go.
If Notre Dame had joined the Big Ten in the 1990s, they'd have been a 12-team conference. They'd have been able to have their conference championship. You would still have Oklahoma, TAMU. You would still have that. You'd still have some semblance of a Big East and an ACC, and you'd still have a Pac-12 with USC and UCLA.
Okay.
And 12-team regional conferences, there'd be more parity in college football, but Notre Dame couldn't do that. They needed special privileges, and Now they're trying to get even more special privileges from the ACC. And I hope those 4 schools don't let them. I hope they stand up for themselves and say, we're tired of a partial member telling us how to run our conference.
All right. I need to find a timer that I'll call the Moen timer.
It wouldn't be a complete show without Moen going in.
It'll sit in the corner. I'm okay with it. I love Moen. You can do whatever he wants, but he needs a timer. I need to put him on a timer.
Moen, I've got a question for you, actually. How many times have you watched the movie Rudy?
We saw it once when I was like in junior high, I think. I never paid to watch it. Yeah.
All right, let's move along.
Important
we got a bunch
distinction.
Of great comments.
Never paid for it.
All right, Cougar Track says, "Is travel not a consideration for conferences anymore?" The answer is no, it's not.
It's no way.
Good question though.
It is.
Good question.
I think it is. Like, we need enough money, and then we'll do the travel.
Let's see here. Don in Kansas says, for the reason Immaculate just mentioned, I don't want Stanford Cal joining the Big 12. That would be 6 former PAC presidents voting at Big 12 meetings. What a disaster. I think there's something to that.
You've already
more people.
You're already there, though. Like, you've got half of your conference right now is new schools.
New schools, but they're not. They're more loyal to the Big 12 than they are to the Pac-12. I can tell you right now.
But I'm just saying, like, Arizona State, and Utah are, to a degree, a voting block.
Of course they are.
I don't know if BYU will form in with that, or BYU will just be kind of independent.
I think BYU is going to get with TCU and Baylor, but that's just my opinion. Let's see here.
That's a fair opinion. That's very possible.
I saw dang it, there was a really good one. And I'm sorry, I lost it. I should have pinned it. It was just a simple question. It was from Laura. Laura, you asked a question a second ago. Can you retype what that was? Because I really liked it, and for some reason I can't find it. This is one I want to make sure everybody knows about. Laura Weiss. This is the one I found, Laura, by the way. Bob Thompson specifically told this channel the networks don't make the final decision, didn't he? Yes, the answer is yes. He did.
100%. That's correct, Laura.
No question there. Let's see. Blake, I'm not going to say that.
Can we talk more about this? Like, I mean,
go ahead.
I do want to get into this because, like, I think it was Bob, or maybe it was him on a different channel or something, talked about the process of a president or a conference asking media companies for valuations on school ads, right? I don't know if you guys heard anything like that, but usually how realignment happens, a conference, the Pac-12 will ask Fox and ESPN, their partners, how much San Diego State will be worth to the conference as an ad, right? So technically the media company doesn't approach the conference approaches the media company, but really depending on that number, that drives a lot of decision making, right? So that's just another piece of evidence there that the media companies really they have a lot to say about this, because if the valuation's not there, the conference won't go do it. It really is money driven in a lot of ways, in almost all the ways when you're approaching a media company asking about that. So money's huge.
Anytime you have business partners, they're going to talk in both directions.
Yep.
John F. Hopkins says, I blame greed. I think we all blame greed. That's probably, here's a good one from Jeff Woodworth. Blame Canada. Okay. I'm all right with that.
Blame Bomber.
Blame me. What the heck? Blake Phillips is calling me a troll. I'm not sure what I did to be a troll, but I'm okay. Blake, I appreciate the comment. Let's see here. Mr. Monkey says, is the ACC harming their relationship with ESPN by asking for pro rata for the Stanford Cal SMU? Moen, guess they're thinking of short term. Moen.
I don't think they're harming their relationship with ESPN at all, because they're basically indentured servants to ESPN at this point. They've got a grant of rights through 2036. I mean, what's the worst that could happen to them?
And all of their competition is growing, and they don't have much options for growing. So, right.
I mean, there's not a whole lot worse ESPN could do to them than they've already done to them. I mean, they've got them locked into a grant of rights through 2036 that pays them peanuts compared to every other conference. Mm-hmm. They've got their ACC network that has terrible clearance. So
that's a good question.
Go ahead, Larry.
That's a really great question, because back in 2016, the Big 12 had pro rata, and they were going to add schools to get more money and bring the schools in and pay them less money. And ESPN said no. Fox and ESPN said no on the pro rata, even though it was in the contract. And so they ended up paying the Big 12 the same price for 12 teams that they had for 10 without having 12 teams. So could this be another 2016 Big 12 move? Because
that's a fair question.
BYU was looked at to be added to the Big 12 in 2016.
Yeah, we definitely thought it was a done deal, for sure. That's true. Larry.
Yeah, and ESPN and Fox paid the Big 12 more money, like you guys were there. So
yeah, I know it.
That's a very good question. Actually,
I don't think anybody's saying. I got to get this Blake Phillips comment in. A super chat. Be nice, Blake. But he says this just in: Baltimore and Pilgrim were wrong. All right, let's be nice to everybody.
Larry, we love you on this channel, Larry. We do. Just to let that be known, we do.
Blake's calling people a troll. Blake's calling people a troll, and then he does that. Who's the troll?
Moen's Notre Dame rant. That's pretty funny, actually. Okay, Blake, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the super chats. Let's scroll down here. Let's see. Moff Prof says, it's all good. Just kidding. One idea. How much is the shooter game with clock running effective over under bets? Do you guys know what that means?
He was saying shorter game. He clarified right after that. With the way that they're running the clock now, scores might be lower.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit more, guys. I didn't watch the Notre Dame game. The final score of that game was 42-3, by the way. I think
right. But that's because Navy has no defense. So, I think most games are probably going to be lower scoring than what we thought in the past. So until the betting companies really provide for that, your over/under might be better off going under.
Yeah.
It's actually counterintuitive. More points get scored when the game is faster.
Right.
Believe it or not. I know that seems weird, but they have shown this in when Canadian football went by these rules and other leagues have went by these rules. The faster the game goes, the more points get scored.
Is that because defense isn't getting set and ready?
Well, think about it. Defense is getting no rest. They used to rest for 40 seconds on a first down. Now you get no rest. There's going to be arcade game scores this season. Yeah. If they don't change that rule, it's going to be
lower
insane.
Substitutions. You've got teams are going to start running faster offenses.
Yep.
They're going to start running 6-play drives. It usually, I know it seems counterintuitive, but faster games tend to lead to more points scored.
This is the argument. If you really want to bring up how networks are affecting the game, it's this right here. Because the shorter games allows them to get in an extra window, and then it's also going to be higher scoring points if what you're saying is true, which makes for what people seem to think is more exciting games. And I'm saying that as a Big Ten West guy. I love the defensive struggles that we have, but everyone else thinks it's boring for some reason, which is fine. Everyone's due their opinion. But if this would be like the networks pushing this to have higher scoring games, if what you're saying is true.
What's ironic with that is shorter games means less commercial breaks. So that's
they're still getting those in, but it's a whole nother game.
All I'm saying is the games are lasting 15, 20 minutes shorter.
Right, but if you have 4 games instead of 3 in a day, if you get to the point where you have 4 decent windows of games instead of 3.
Everybody's still in bed when it's the after dark window, so that's not going to change.
But they're moving that forward in time. If you take off a half hour of each game, in the first ones you have an hour and a half.
They're going to start doing kickoffs at 11:30 a.m. Eastern.
I'm saying they would take a half hour off the end of the game by doing this.
So you think
so the next game would start an hour and a half?
But you're still going to only get 4 games a window.
Right, but a lot of the times what's going on is these games in the past were going longer than their allotted time.
Right.
So they're trying to get them back into their windows so that way the late game is starting when it's actually supposed to start. You can actually get people to watch it.
But anyway. No, time zones don't change. The games still kick off at the same times.
These games, like if the game you're watching is going well past when it's scheduled to end, it's pushing the people who want to watch that next game are not watching the team they want to watch. They don't watch the next game. Then your ratings in the lower games are lower because they want to come watch a certain game at a scheduled time, and they don't get a chance to do that because
you're guessing. You're guessing. We don't know.
I'm not guessing. That's actual. That's
where
normal.
did you read that? Where did you read that?
That's from watching football every single week when the games go longer.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying, how do you know that?
How do I know what? That the games go longer than they're scheduled when it says on the guide? Like this game
people are watching in your region, you're going to keep watching that game. The only people that switch are the ones that are going to watch.
I'm talking about the
region
people
games.
who want to watch the next game.
But they do go to the next game.
They tune in and your game is still playing, so then they're not watching because they want to watch their next game. There is an element of people who don't watch every single game over and over and over and over. They're tuning in for okay, all right. If you don't think that's true, then I'm not going to bother trying to change
I think
your mind,
we're just going to have to agree to disagree.
That's crazy.
We don't have
crazy, dude.
Immaculate. We do not have the data. We're just
what data do I need to say that some people just want to watch a particular game, and if the game that they tune in to watch,
get to watch it. If you're in the region,
not
you
for
do
like
get
15 half hour later because the other game's going so long. They're
We're
trying
gonna
to
have
get the games. No, this is not a thing to disagree on. They want games to end when they're scheduled to end and start, so that people can read their guides and know what's going on. I don't know what's so hard about it.
You're both right. In the region, yes, they cut off the other games.
I don't want to have this played out like I'm being crazy about this. It's like it's pretty fucking simple.
Yeah, but you're both right. Bomber's saying in regionals, so if he's in Utah, they will cut away from the other game to play the Utah game.
Right.
You're talking about people who are not within the region who have to then wait to see the Utah game or jump around to ESPN Classics or ESPNU.
They're going away from the regional stuff. They're just playing lineups of like these are the games you're watching.
Look, we can. It's okay to disagree about it.
Okay, I get that.
But Notre Dame's fault.
Like you're saying, you don't have any stats for this. I'm like, what?
We
what
don't
do I need
have
stats for.
We just started it. I mean, it just started today. Don't we have to get through a season to actually find out if what you're saying is true?
The new stuff. Yeah, I'm saying that. I think that is meant to bring this back in line. I'm saying in the past, the way the games went, they went way over.
But you said the right word. You said you think. Right?
Okay, so what? Like you're saying,
let's get to the end of the season.
Is bad.
No, I never said that.
Okay,
why
but
do you say that?
Because
I'm
it's
simply
pretty
disagreeing with your analysis. That's all.
Anything that is made to make the game end sooner, obviously it is because time running versus time not running will make the game end sooner. It's going to get them more in line with the scheduled times that the game is meant to be in. It's like I don't need proof for that. That's just how time works.
I appreciate what you're saying.
Okay. Well,
you guys, I'll be really honest.
I don't mind having like my opinion on stuff get called out saying you don't have proof of that. I'm be okay. But this is not one of those things where I need to have some media guy come say this is why they're doing that. Like,
no, that's not what I said. That was not my original contention. My original contention was because they're shortening these games, they're getting less commercials. That was my original statement.
I don't know what I watched. They certainly had a lot of commercials. I think they're just having a short amount of time in between commercials.
Okay, well, again,
you're right.
So the premise, you and I, we just disagree on the premise. That's all.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying is from what I saw, they're not cutting down commercial times.
And I appreciate that. That's awesome. I'm saying let's get through a season, actually see what the video and the data says. That's all I said.
Yeah, but and all I'm saying is from the past, this was a lot of big issues and complaints and problems that times are going way over.
Okay.
Hey, there's a chat in there that it was said. I mean, the chat's going nuts, guys. I mean, that was good stuff. I'll be honest with you.
They like it when we get a little heated. And
you know what? Hey, I just watching you guys too. It's really entertaining. There was a comment about Kyle Whittingham, right?
Yeah, this is it. This is it right here, and this is for you, Ute. So the Blake Phillips says, did y'all talk about Utah coach talking Big 12? So I left this as the last, sort of the last subject for tonight. You have the floor. Do whatever you want to do. So,
guys, Kyle Whittingham got into some controversy because he was interviewed by a local radio show. And in the interview, he was making mention, talking about the Holy War, BYU Utah, and he made the comment that he doesn't really see that game happening permanently, and that he sees realignment kind of shaking things up here in the next, he said, like 2 to 5 years, or in the near term future. He sees more realignment movement, and he made a suggestion that either BYU or Utah wouldn't be playing each other possibly in the near future, and maybe one or both of them would be in different conferences. So locally here in Utah, that caused a massive stir, and a lot of Cougar fans just lost it over that comment. And it seems like a lot of Cougar fans are just having a little pity party about that, Bomber, from a Ute fan perspective on kind of those comments and everything. But here's some background context. Kyle Whittingham spoke to this issue so many times over the years. He's been interviewed and said the exact same thing like several times, like last year, the year before, the year before. This isn't new news. This is how he sees it. He sees things go into really like a P2 model and everything. So it's nothing new for Ute fans, but BYU fans had a really hard time digesting that. So that's the story there. I don't think he's throwing any shade at the Big 12. He just sees it shaking up again, guys. He doesn't see the Big 12 necessarily, or Utah, BYU being in the Big 12 over the long haul. This is how he sees it.
So Utah, now BYU. I would represent, I think, 60 or 65% of the most reasonable BYU fans. The shock and awe had nothing to do with the rivalry talk or realignment. The only thing that everybody keyed on, at least the people that I have been interacting with for the last 2 days, what they've been keying on is the fact that he completely disregarded the rivalry first. And he's a BYU grad, right? Yes. So he took the air out of the balloon with the rivalry. That's first. And two, he didn't speak with respect for somebody that I know he has a long history with. And just those two things had nothing to do with the grinding on realignment, not being in the same conference, none of that. It was two things. It was he's a BYU grad. You can be like you and I are, Ute. You can agree to disagree on stuff, and rivalries get heated, but there should be a little bit of a level of respect there. It's obvious.
He was taking a shot at all.
Let me finish. I let you talk. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
He specifically did not use the letters BYU in his entire rant. And he got that from Urban Meyer. So you can't say that he made that up himself. He's been parroting that for 20 years. So the problem is that he's not turning around and saying, yeah, the rivalry's back. We want to love it. We want to get into it and find it again. He's literally saying it's the dustbin of history, and in 2 or 3 years, it's going to be gone. So you can get behind your guy and protect Kyle all you want, but me as a BYU fan, knowing where Kyle came from, I love Kyle Whittingham. I don't think you've ever heard me say word one negative about him, ever. Nope. I love Kyle. He's a great coach, and I wish he would have gotten the job instead of Bronco. So this is about the lack of respect that he showed for the school, and then obviously that trickles down to all the fans. And I don't think there's really anything there's no counter to that. That's a feeling. I
think that it wasn't about BYU at all. Like, I think that you're making about yourself, and it's really not about you.
That is the topic.
You didn't see the conference.
The topic is about realignment, and the question was about the holy rival. Sorry, the holy war specifically. You can't take the rest of it and leave that one snippet and think that's the only thing he's talking about. Did you watch the entire article? I watched the entire video. I watched every question, and if you take it in total, it just wasn't there. And
so he was trying to disrespect BYU. That's what I'm getting.
I think he wants to do anything he can to put Utah in a position that BYU isn't even in the same universe. And to do that, he takes the air out of the rivalry and the holy war, which you and I have a great amount of respect for.
Sure.
So that part, I think you and I can come together on. So How did it make you feel when he talked about the rivalry going away? I'm going to turn it around and ask you, because I'm telling you
I don't like
how
that
I felt.
The rivalry. I love the Holy War. It's one of the, it's the best game, really, that Utah plays. And like going to Utah, like my undergrad days and stuff, that was the biggest game of the year and stuff. I mean, it was nuts. So I love having that game. I don't know, for Whittingham, it just seems real deep. There's
There's something else going on. I agree. I agree.
That game is just too much for him to handle or something. And I want to hear Larry's perspective too on this, because
Sure,
Larry's a
absolutely,
diehard Ute fan, and I really want to hear from like another Ute fan on how they think this too. Like, well, Larry, what's going on with Whittingham's view of the Holy War?
So I've talked to a few people. So, I mean, in a way, he wasn't trying to disrespect BYU, but on the other hand, Kyle does not see BYU on Utah's level. Kyle Whittingham is trying to compete with the Ohio States, the Penn States, the USCs. He's not trying to compete against BYU. Those days are gone. And
well,
so,
in your opinion,
in a way,
they're gone. That's not true. I would discount that. Don't say
Bomber,
it like
I just
it's
backed
final.
you up. I just backed up your statement. I just backed you up.
They did. That's what you're saying, Bomber. Yeah.
Bomber, he's disrespecting BYU. Yes, not intentionally, but yes, he does not see BYU as an equal. So I mean that's just what it is. And then also, I didn't know, but there's been a couple of things going around. I guess, did you see the picture and the videos of the BYU fans that attacked his daughter and his wife? Grabbed them, literally grabbed them.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I think that might have something to do with it as well.
Are you talking about years ago this happened?
Yeah,
yesterday?
It was at a game way back.
Yeah, I think that was in like 2005 or 2006.
Yeah,
it was a horrible incident, but that by itself, I heard a rumor 2 months ago that I was all behind Kyle Whittingham, backing him up. I heard a rumor that at a recruiting thing, he did nothing but, he cussed up a storm. He sort of went on this little bit of a hissy fit with a recruit's family, and I completely discounted it out of hand. I said, "There's no way Kyle Whittingham would do that."
Oh, he sarcastically did it.
What he said yesterday. I'm just telling you, you guys are going by feeling. As a BYU fan, we love Kyle Whittingham. The guys who don't, there's jackasses in every school, right? In every fandom, you're gonna have bad people. But we love and respect Kyle Whittingham. To have him act like this, it was extremely disheartening. And it's really not something you can argue about. Whether Utah fans think BYU fans overreacted and not, whatever. I have my opinion. I explained it very detailed on Twitter, and people just completely discounted it and made fun of it. And fine, whatever. That's what I needed to do to get through this, to cope about it. But I'm just telling you, the fact that you would have a guy who's a great leader in the industry of college football, he's local, and he has an opportunity not only to build up Utah, because BYU and Utah, they're better together. When BYU and Utah are the best brands in the West, they raise each other up. For Utah to go to the Big Ten, they're going to have to do it through the Big 12 and BYU. If BYU sucks, that's not going to help Utah.
I don't think Utah needs BYU, but it enhances Utah.
I think they don't want to. You're absolutely right. They think that they're this other level, right? You guys, I'm talking about you guys, think you're up here, and that's fine. It's not a problem. That's your perception, and I can't tell you how to feel. But from everybody else, and this is the Big 12 now I'm representing, not just BYU, that ego, Arizona State not going to West Virginia, that stuff is going to burn. And you guys are still stung about it. I thought this would go away. I'm frustrated because I thought we'd turned a page, but all we've done is entrench more. It's only gotten worse in the last 2 weeks.
Do you feel like so this is from the Ute perspective. Do you feel like there's more smugness coming from Utah, Whittingham and Utah fans to BYU in the Big 12 now than there was?
It's 10 times worse.
Really? But than before this, like the Pac-12 stuff took out?
Yep, it is.
I mean, I don't know. I don't see that. I see a lot of on social media, a lot of Ute fans supporting the Big 12, and those are the communities that I'm in, right? But you're seeing it from maybe other perspectives. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just interested in that. So is that what the chat's hearing too? Or are Ute fans, or like are the Ute community being smugged to other Big 12 fan bases? I'm curious about that.
Do you want an outsider opinion on it?
I
Go
do.
ahead, Immaculate.
Welcome to having an in-conference rivalry.
But see, we were used
I
to
know.
that before, and we
I
got
know.
unprogrammed, and it went away, and now we got this.
And the part that he said that actually made me actually kind of sit up and wonder is when he said that we're not going to be in the same conference again in the future anyways. I made me wonder, is he just making like an angry, stressful comment because this has been so stressful, or do they see more happening? In terms of disrespecting BYU, I think you have reason to be upset about it. But I also think that this is the stuff that makes rivalries. There's one side disrespecting the other. And this, I don't know. I'm not going to judge it. I'm sitting back. I'm not part of this. But to me, from what I've seen here locally with ASU and Arizona fans and what gets lobbed at each other, any single time one little controversy happens for the other one, the opposing group just goes in hard. So I think this is just one of many where you're probably going to have something said that is taken as disrespectful, and it's just going to happen because that rivalry is going to matter whether or not he likes it or not, whether or not Utah fans like it or not. You guys are on even ground, and that's just how it effing is.
And what's funny is this used to be the everyday, right? 13, 14 years ago, this was the everyday, and it wasn't a problem. And the love to hate was great. But then there was a break, and now everybody as a BYU fan, the reason we want the rivalry with Utah is because we want the rivalry with Utah back.
Sure,
we miss
absolutely.
it. And Utah, again, I'm speaking for Ute, but he can obviously correct me if I'm wrong. Thinks that they turn the page, right? They're no longer what?
Turn the page on the rivalry?
No, turn the page to not just looking at BYU as an equal.
Yeah, I mean it's. I think that BYU. I understand what you're saying. A lot of Ute fans, I felt pretty proud of the performance of the team, right? And then Utah has taken its program to a level that BYU is currently not at. I mean, that's undeniable, right? Football-wise, over the last 5, 10, 20 years.
No, that's nonsense. No, I won't give you
Are
that.
you kidding me?
No.
How do you justify what you're saying? Like, I mean,
in the last you said 5, 10, 20 years. That's not.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the BCS days when BYU never made a BCS bowl and Utah made 2. Back before even the Pac-12 invite. Like, and so
snap.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the Pac-12 invite.
I'm just saying that Utah's had more on-field success over the last 20 years over BYU, and it's been pretty considerable more, right? Like I don't think that's controversial. I think that's just the case. So
from 1972 to now, BYU is 30-26 against Utah.
Well, how about from the history's perspective? Like Utah's like 130.
That was not modern football. You can't talk about anything before.
Let's not cherry pick what years we want. This is turning into a Michigan, Ohio.
Yeah, and I do. You know what, Bomber? I want to sidestep and ask Moan about this. So, Moan, you've heard us bickering about this rivalry for quite a few episodes and everything, and you've kind of got a feel for it. What's the difference between the Holy War and the game?
You guys are arguing about it. The game, it is pure hatred for a week.
Yeah.
You couldn't even begin to understand. Right now, you guys are looking at each other going, "Ooh, I hate this team. We literally go on all our road signs and X out the letter M.
Yeah. You can't say anything with the letter M in it without taking the sound of the M out of that word.
Even during the year, we don't even say their name. It's that team up north, that school up north.
They're the crazy.
Woody Hayes Woody Hayes told the story. He once ran out of gas coming back from Michigan, pushed his car for 2 miles just so he wouldn't have to pay somebody in Michigan for gas. He historically went for 2 points when they were up by 6 touchdowns, and they said, "Well, why'd you go for 2?" Well, they wouldn't let me go for 3.
Oh my!
I mean, it's a level of hate. I hate Jim Harbaugh. I hate Michigan. I hate khaki pants. I hate his sanctimonious presentation he puts on. The game, the level of hate between those two teams, it's legitimate. Like, it's not, haha, we're rivals, but often it's hate. I mean, it's
let me just say this. I like this comment from Brent Nichols. He says, from an outsider, I look at BYU Utah as equal in the conference because we're both just going into the Big 12 now.
Right.
But they both need to prove themselves on the field. And then there's one more comment here that says, from David, in fact, he says, Utah winning the worst P5 conference will not impress the Big 12 programs. So as a BYU fan, this is how I'm looking at Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys feel like you've been in the strongest conference in the universe. You beat USC and that was it. You beat USC and that's the end all be all. That honestly, if you think about it, you beat USC 3 times in 2 years, and then what happens in the bowl game? Twice in a row. Against
the bowl game's an exhibition game. Who cares?
Second.
Bowl games?
Oh my gosh, Philip. That is a bunch of crap, and you know it. Every Utah fan put those stupid roses in their Twitter feeds. You don't think they wanted to be there to win that? You guffawing about the fact that you guys didn't win that is complete nonsense.
It's an exhibition game, Bomber. I'd rather take a championship.
That is that's it. That's it. we can absolutely blow it up from that because I think that's a bunch of you're lying to either yourself or you're lying to us.
Let's not get into bowl results.
Here's another difference. The Ohio State-Michigan game, that has determined national champions.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a rivalry when whoever wins has a good shot at winning a national championship.
Utah and BYU could be that in the future, but you guys are just starting to get into that now where you have that chance.
And I think that's what I'm looking forward to. I just hope Utah is too.
Well, Utah definitely is, and a lot of Ute fans, and there's still some shock, right, of this Pac-12 stuff, guys. I mean, it's real news still. Ute fans are like coming to the realization this is the last time Oregon's going to ever come to Rice-Eccles, and USC and UCLA. Last time we're playing them, it was a run, but it's still like a little bit of a shock, and the reality set in a year or two, and we'll get this new normal and stuff, but. Yeah, when BYU and Utah are in a pod and there's going to be stuff on the line like a playoff berth, it's going to be a new level that we have never seen before, like Moan's saying, and that's going to happen. This game's going to be amplified. It is.
Yeah, it's going to happen. And just as a matter of comparison, like take some of the comments that Moan said that certain coaches made between Ohio State and Michigan, and you start to see that, and it gives you a little bit of context for maybe if you hear some things coming from the Utah side or from the BYU side that frustrates you. Well, that's what a big rivalry is. Sometimes the other side is going to say some things that really pisses you off, and it's just what it is. That's kind of how I see this. Like, it just at this moment in time, I'm sure everyone's a little frustrated that's been having to deal with the whole situation and the breakdown of the pack, and how it's really probably affected the coaches and how they want to manage their teams. But most of their teams are like, where's the future going? Do I need to move on? Do I need to transfer out of here? So I'd imagine he was probably been under a lot of stress.
And I've talked to Bomber about this, and this is honestly, if you're standing in Kyle Whittingham's shoes, and I don't like Spence Checketts. I wish they would have kept Gunther and
that was a mistake. I agree.
I don't like Spencer Checketts. You're asking a man who's going for a three-peat, who's really finally got an upperclassman roster, and he's too deep. And here's this clown asking him about next year in the rivalry. Do you think Kyle Whittingham wants to touch on something like that? I'll bet you if he wasn't on the phone, he would have reached over and smacked that guy, and I would have applauded him. So, honestly, I think what happened, it's a touchy subject to begin with, and he doesn't want to think about next year. I mean, Utah's in a good position this year. They've got one of the toughest schedules they've ever had.
Mhm.
And he sure as hell doesn't want to be discussing a holy war next year. That game is happening whether we're in the Big 12 or not. So,
Mhm.
I don't like the commentator that asked him that. And thank you for backing me on that, Bomber, because I loved Gunther. Gunther was awesome. This
Yeah.
Spence Checkett is I don't know if I can say this, but this guy used to booze a lot. I mean, he's been picked up off of bar floors. They should have left him there.
Yeah, he hates BYU. Let's just say it that way. His dad went to BYU. All his family went to BYU. He is not in that vein. So when I heard the interview and I found out it was Spence Checkett, I was like, okay, you have to take this into consideration. Who's asking the question? You have to put it in context when they're asking it. And I had just hoped he had maybe just tipped his hat a little bit to it. Obviously, we're past it. Football season is here. Week 0 is come and gone almost. We're into the nighttime. There's one more big game, USC, San Jose State. And then we're into next week, and you guys are talking Florida. So this thing with Kyle, it was a big, passionate thing for both Utah fans and BYU fans, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I just, like I said, I was just a little sad, but that's just a personal thing. I can't speak for anybody else.
Speaking of USC, how bad are they going to beat San Jose State tonight? The spread's 31 points. Like, I think it's going to be real ugly, probably right off the bat.
I think they're going to upset USC.
Oh, if they upset USC, oh my gosh.
San Jose State, come on, Immaculate.
Immaculate. San Jose.
You know how great that would be, though? Like,
somebody told me that San Jose State, I can't remember if it was on offense or defense, like completely, like 50% of their starters are back. So any chance San Jose ever had would have been with upperclassmen. And it sounds like they're going to be rolling out. A quarter of their guys are going to be just newbies. So this is going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Now let's close this up, guys. This has been a great show. Again, we'll edit that one part out. If you stuck with us through all of this, I hope you had fun. That we had some spicy conversations, but that's what we do here. And it's all with respect, and everybody who's been on the show has been incredible, and we really appreciate that.
Hey, on Monday's show, y'all, we have a High Top Sports coming on. Those are the Florida Gator boys here. We're going to talk about Utah, Florida, the Thursday game next week, and we're going to get into it. These guys are crazy. We're crazy. I'm sure it's going to get nice and heated. So go Utes.
Everybody, please subscribe if you're new to the channel. Give us a thumbs up, hopefully. This was a weird episode, honestly. Turn on your notifications. And then thanks to all those members who were here today. We had so many comments. It's absolutely insane. It's so good to have Utah and BYU fans in here. This is what the show's for. And I hope you were entertained. Larry, you have anything to say as we get out of here?
No, hopefully I can make it for that Monday night. And, I've been watching that guy. And, boy, they got some misconstrued stuff going on in that.
A little bit. Yeah, I saw some of that.
John, a lot, these Florida guys. We really need to get into this.
Yeah, appreciate you, Boomer. Maybe I'll root for BYU in the foreseeable future, but we'll see. It's never going to get to Michigan, Ohio State hate. I know that.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I appreciate what Moen and Immaculate have both said about those rivalries back east. This is just different. And I'm not saying it's better. It's just it's got a different taste to it. And so it's kind of an acquired taste, to be honest. People on the outside watching that have never seen Holy War stuff, they're going, what are these guys even fighting about? And figure out what they're so upset about. It's stupid words somebody said. But it is different, and it's passion, and that's why we have the show. We really appreciate you guys being here. Moen, do you want to say anything on your way out?
Fuck Notre Dame.
All right. Thank you, Moen. Immaculate.
I'd just like to say I was watching and I noticed that the number of people that were with us just kept steadily going up. So people weren't leaving. They were sticking around with us. So very much appreciate that on our first day of football. I had a good time with it, except for that one little mix up. And I always enjoy being able to kind of go at it with you at times, Nate, because I know at the end of it, it doesn't affect us at all. So if anyone's thinking that, understand that that's not the case.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely not. Ute, what do you got to say?
I got to say, I'm waiting for Florida. We are going to stomp the Gators on Thursday. I've already got jitters for the game, guys. Seriously, I think Bomb and I might go live that morning because I'm just taking the whole day off work, and I'm just beyond pumped for Thursday. Oh, man. And Monday, these high top guys, I'm telling you, man, we are going to lay into these guys, and we're going to get into it with these guys and tell them what's going on and how the Utes are going to punish the Gators. So go Utes. Go Utes.
Blake Phillips says, great show, fellas. Next time you need me to come on and scream, just let me know. All right. Everybody stick around after the show because we got some editing to do. I'm not sure how to do it. So I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much. Have a great Friday. Sorry, I messed up. Great Saturday night and then Sunday as well. We'll see you Monday evening at 8:30 Eastern. Everybody else, peace out.